Shalom, shalom, saints, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Christian podcast. It's your girl, Cece.
It's your girl, Shay.
And today I don't really have a question. It's a deep one, it's a personal one. And as you know, we're all unfiltered. And I feel like so many of us go through this journey. And we have our bright light, Shay, that can give you her experience and tips and tricks. And we're going to be talking about
Gonna,
abstinence.
there you
Um,
go.
And what abstinence means for people who don't know is it's when you have sex before marriage and you're now saving yourself sexually for your marital bed until you get married, or some people call it abstaining from sex. But the real thing that I want to talk about within this topic is when you fall.
Guys, I had no clue she was going to ask about this, but maybe I need to speak about it because it's every when you talk about things, it helps with healing,
Mm,
and I'm an open book. You know me. I'm happy to speak about things because I feel like it can help somebody. For all others who's been open with me, it's helped me a lot, and so that's why I'm happy to be open. I've been on my celibacy journey after the separation of me and my son's dad. Um, I started it with protecting myself. It was just all about protecting my emotions, protecting myself. I was tired of feeling used and also thinking that this was the person I was going to marry. I was actually, sorry, let me rewind. I was on my celibacy journey, abstinence journey, same thing. I was on it before I met my son's dad, actually, and I fell. Um, it wasn't for a long time, but I was serious about it at that time. But feeling like convinced that, quote unquote, this was my husband, I fell before time instead of waiting. And that's where my son came about. But then after we separated, I got back on the journey and I focused on the fact that, okay, now I have a human being that needs all my attention. And I've always wanted to be a mom. And it was a difficult time because I wasn't having the joyous moments that I would have wanted. So mentally, I couldn't focus on another relationship. That was just not going to happen because my child was a baby. So I started my celibacy from there, not by choice, fully, just by like, it's just not about me anymore. But then in time, I kept my eyes focused on being abstinent because I wanted to go back to the place I was in before. I didn't want to be giving my body to anyone that I didn't feel that was deserving, first of all. But then also thinking back to the original plan that God wanted to make sure the person I gave my body to was my husband. So my journey was not easy. I may not have
can I
fallen.
pause you there?
Yeah.
And I want to break this down. So on your celibacy journey, can you talk about how long have you been celibate for? Like the different accounts, and was it easy to be celibate? Was it not? Like, yeah, talk us through your experience and when you fell.
So I was celibate. I was trying to be celibate over a period of like years before I went as far as I did over the recent years. When I say recent years, from like 2019 until last year. So I'm gonna say that I was celibate like 7 months at a time. So like I'd make it to 7 months and then I'd break. I'd make it to 7 months and then I'd break. I think I'd done that 3 times, 2 or 3 times, at least 2 times minimum, before I got to the point where from 2019 I was celibate all the way until 2025. So that was coming to 6 years of my celibacy. And within that five years or 5.5 years, it was a huge challenge. At first, it was okay because I had a distraction, which was my child. I had a lot going on in life. So it was okay. Like being with someone was not a priority for me because I had things happening in my life. And I was very conscious of like not having anyone around my child and also conscious of the fact that I wanted to be married. So I was thinking, well, that's not going to be simple. It's not going to be easy. So when you have that focus of the fact that you do want to be married, it's not that simple to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to date somebody. I just want a relationship. I feel like when you're in that place where you just want a relationship or you want a long-term relationship, the push is not as serious to me personally. Whereas if you're looking at marriage, which is something serious, it's a covenant, it's the way Elohim wanted us to be intimate in. Like when you focus on it in that way, it makes it more meaningful and it makes your walk in celibacy much more focused. But then the flesh kicks in, the urges kick in. The sexual urges, you're not even, you could feel your body wanting that intimacy. You could feel your body want sex and you don't know how to cope. And there's times where I prayed it away and it worked. But then after a while, the urges get stronger and the prayer might last for, I don't know, the prayer might remove the urges for a short time. And then by the next night, you feel it again. And it started to get really frustrating because it's now every night you're feeling this. In the daytime, you might be okay. Or sometimes I feel it in the day. Or sometimes I'm not even like thinking about it and it just pops up. So then I had to be very careful with what is my eye seeing? What am I watching? Anything that gave me any type of feeling of temptation in the sense of like it might just be someone kissed on TV. Like I would avoid watching certain things. Avoid watching things that was like reality shows with relationships and all that stuff. I'd just remove myself from that stuff because it's like the feeling of wanting somebody led to the sexual urges. So I had to like analyze those things until I felt like I could manage better with watching anything like those type of things. I worked on just not watching those things, just removing myself from those things. Which in the Bible says we should guard our eyes anyways. We should guard all our senses. And so that became a theme for me for a while. That scripture became a theme for me for a while in regards to like, okay, what am I listening to? What conversations am I having? That kind of stuff, because I was so sensitive. I stayed away from physical connection, being in physical contact with any opposite sex, because I just didn't want that temptation. I don't have many male friends anyways. And if I do, my male friends don't live within the UK. So it was easy for me. But I wouldn't feel that way with my male friends, but it was more like dating and stuff. I didn't really date because I didn't want to be thinking about the whole idea of like the intimacy part. Because sometimes I wanted to date for the wrong reasons. And so trying to focus on like, why do I want to date? Like all these different things, it was a different challenge throughout the years of, where I'm going and what do I want to do. And sometimes I'd even avoid, like, even if I like someone, I'd avoid even going on a date with them because I'm like, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to handle being in the presence of someone I like? Because liking them means I'm physically attracted to them. And how am I going to, resist, not getting myself caught up in a situation? And like, so I'd kind of focus on like the mental side of getting to know that person instead of like going on a date with them straight away, so that I just don't put myself in a tempting situation. But then also I had to learn about navigating dating. Like, okay, you don't, back in the day, I didn't find it a problem being in someone's house. It wasn't an issue for me, but then I wasn't celibate. So it didn't bother me, like us being in close quarters in my house or their house. It was an issue. But then coming into celibacy, I realized that's like, okay, that's something I should not be doing. I shouldn't put myself in that position because it's going to draw a lot of temptation. And it's not that hard. Sorry, it's not that easy to come out of that situation because one thing can lead to another and it's hard to stop yourself from going forward. So I went through all those challenges. But then towards the end, and when I say end, because this is the point where I started to break, it became really, really, really hard because I felt like I was
Before
fast
you get to the end,
gone.
before you get to the end, I just had a thought. What about like, okay, so because celibacy is different for everybody, right?
It is, yeah.
So I want you to answer this question. Do you feel like, because you could say I'm abstaining from sex, do you feel like masturbation is part of celibacy or not?
Well, when you say part of, it's something you can do while celibate or something
Yeah,
you shouldn't.
like it's okay to do it until I'm married.
No. So that was a big challenge for me as well. At the beginning, I didn't see a problem with masturbation because I felt like it was a way to take away that urge so that you're not tempted to go and seek out sex from somebody or, yeah. So I just thought like, okay, masturbation is fine. That was at the beginning. And then after a while, I started to, and bearing in mind, I still felt that way, even though I don't know if we did that study around that time of the beginning part of my celibacy. Do you remember? Um,
Oh, when I did a study on masturbation.
Masturbation, yeah. I don't,
Oh, I can't remember.
I don't
I know that it
remember.
was in lockdown.
It was in lockdown. Okay, cool. So that was the beginning part of my celibacy. So if it wasn't lockdown, yes.
Ah,
So when we did a study in the beginning part of lockdown about masturbation, um, I think that's where my mindset started to change. But I still found it hard to physically, like, stay away from masturbation because to me, it felt like it fixed the problem at that time. But in time, knowing that masturbation is not of God, knowing that I was the self gratification of masturbation and like giving into self, and also the fact of like it would be harder for whoever my husband is to pleasure me because I knew how to pleasure myself. I had to make up my mind eventually, like, this is something I have to stop. But I didn't know how to. It got to the point where I felt like this is doing nothing. This is literally a 30-second fix. And after that, I'm still feeling it. And I'm hurting myself mentally and physically because I just keep going and it's not doing anything. So it started to become meaningless. And when it became meaningless, that's when I drew back to that study and just said, you know what? I don't want it to be hard for my husband to please me. Because for someone that was sexually active before, and trust me, choosing celibacy, this is what I'm going to tell everybody straight up right now. I love sex. I'm going to say that straight. So choosing celibacy was not an easy choice. It was not like, oh yeah, sex don't mean nothing to me. I can do it. No, I am one of the people that chose celibacy. It is the hardest thing to do. Like I'm one of those people that enjoyed being active with someone that I was in a relationship with and whatever. Like I enjoyed that. So for me, choosing this path was a very, very hard decision to make. Even with the situations I had going on in my life, it was not an easy decision to make at all. So I'm not talking about this lightly. I'm talking about someone that like, it was a struggle. It was hard. You know what I mean? To this day, I still struggle. It is not easy. But what I will say, it did get a little bit easier over time. Over time, it got easier, but I had to stick to it. I had to stick to it. And so I had to remove masturbation. I couldn't continue masturbation anymore because I started to realize it was more of a hindrance to me than it was helping me. It was not helping me at all. And it just became meaningless. But also for me, the biggest thing was that I was trying to undo what I did to myself when it came to like pleasure because I didn't want to now end up in a marriage where we were going to struggle sexually because of what I've done. Because then I'm going to feel like my husband can't pleasure me because I've been doing it all myself or I've been in unrealistic situations or I'm watching porn, seeing things happening that just doesn't make that's not reality and then thinking that's going to happen in marriage. So I had to undo like all of this like worldly things that was in my mind, like thinking that it was all these things were okay.
yeah,
But I had to do it bit by bit because first I used to masturbate with pornography. Then I removed pornography, but I was still masturbating. And then I had to remove masturbation. So it was all a process.
yeah.
And looking back on it, thinking that that was okay and thinking that God was going to send me a husband in the midst of that. I don't know what in the world I was thinking. But in that time, you think, yeah, like, I'm not having sex. It's fine, and you just make all these excuses. But you have to realize how much damage you're causing to yourself. And having a conversation with one of my male friends, he was saying the same thing. He wanted to remove masturbation as well because he just realized that like it was just a moment, just a release. But then after that, you feel empty. And
Yeah.
that's what hit hard. The fact that you still feel empty. So that was the
I think
two
that's
things.
also something as well with for people who are still a virgin. The key things that she's saying, because this can apply to you as well, that even though you haven't had sex but you're masturbating, it can potentially damage your sex life for when you do get married.
Exactly that. It can. Because even though you haven't had penetrative sex, because you have been satisfying your own self, what your husband is going to do is going to be unrealistic. Like what we do during masturbation, it's not the same as being with a human being, so of the opposite sex. So it is just going to be so hard for them to do what you would like. And that was already happening to me before I chose celibacy, before I drew closer to God. That was already happening to me, where like my sex life was unrealistic. Like I always felt like people couldn't pleasure me because I was still doing masturbation. But I didn't know
Okay.
at the time, I didn't know that what I was doing. So I kept thinking, oh, it's them and this and that. Like, you're talking all these things. But then you realize that actually, no, it's not that individual. Eventually, I learned that it was masturbation. It was ruining everything. It was literally ruining everything. So I remember years before I started to do this, I remember you told me a story of a couple that chose to be celibate before they got married. I don't know if they were doing it before, but they chose to, like, a year before they got married, to be celibate. And I thought, what kind of madness is that? That doesn't make sense. I remember that time thinking, but that stuck with me. Like that first initial thing of hearing
Yeah,
anything.
when he proposed, they said that they're no longer gonna have sex. So the day that he proposed, he
Ah,
said to her, "We're no longer gonna have sex until we get married."
right. That's what it was. And I thought, my mind, I remember, do you know what's so funny? It stood out to me because I actually remember where I was standing when we had that conversation. I think that's the first thing that was planted in my mind when it came to celibacy. And I always remembered it. Um,
We're
and it
not
was,
saying it's okay. We're just letting you know that it's not okay.
no, 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 it's not okay. No, 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 no. No, it's not at all that they never came to my mind. About reality, staying in before
Yeah,
marriage.
maybe the fact that they was a couple and they was already having sex. Because if you're already having sex and you're going to get married, you'll just continue until you're married. But I
Yeah,
think the significant thing is, it's just like, I think the thing that probably stuck with you is that he now sees like the importance of like, raw. I'm proposing to you now. You're about to be my wife. Like, we need to set up this some ceremonial bed.
right.
Like we're gonna
Yeah,
abstain,
stay.
and that
Yeah.
was probably even harder for them because they lived together.
Oh.
Um, but then their prayer life went up, and they said sex got better after they got married from abstaining. I don't know how long they were together, but then they were saying when they got married, after they were married, after the 1 year of abstaining, and then when they got married, their sex life got sweeter.
Mm. That's what I'm saying. I feel like when you told me that story, I felt excited, but I didn't know how to start that journey. All I knew was that, like, I want that. Like, I want
Mm.
to be with that one person that only wants me and I only want them. And it's only just us. I don't have to be worrying about, like, oh my gosh, what if, whatever, what if, whatever. And I'm not saying that marriage is perfect. That's just what I'm saying. I'm just saying, covered in the covenant of God. Um, that's what I believe. And I just thought I would love that for myself. That sounds so special. And so that's why that stuck with me. And then also having this conversation with someone I'm very close with, they also told me they did the same thing, the exact same thing of what you said. They stopped a year before they got married as well. They chose to do that as well. And I just thought,
Mm.
do you know what? There's something here. There's something going on here. There's something that I'm missing here. And that's where that stuck in my head. But my main thing during my celibacy was just, I just want to not be thinking about previous sexual partners that I'd had and comparing my husband to those people. I wanted my body to be renewed. And so I started praying that prayer, like, remove those feelings or comparisons I may have had with previous sexual partners. I would like my mind to be renewed. Like, I don't even want to remember what sex was like with those people. I want the experience to be renewed again with my spouse. Because obviously, by us breaking that covenant of having sex before marriage, it's harder now. You have to fight a lot of things that you've done in your past. And so the only way that you can remove those things is through prayer. Remove any soul ties that I've had with that individual. And for anyone that doesn't know what soul ties are, when you are intimate with somebody because you are coming together as one, whatever spirit that they may have been carrying, you might have intaken that spirit, and also you become addicted to that person in remembering the feeling, what it was like with that person. And that's why you're able to fantasize and stuff about that, because of that soul tie that that tie or that connection you have with that person. So all of that I had to work on praying away. So it was really, really a journey. Even though it was a tough journey, I needed to do all of those things. But in the midst of that, it doesn't mean I wasn't struggling. It doesn't mean I wasn't suffering. It doesn't mean I didn't slip up into masturbation. It wasn't happening as often as it did at the beginning. There was a point where I went a year without masturbation. But then when I did it, I was like, oh, that was not worth it. And sometimes it felt like it was worth it. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Even though I knew it wasn't. But in that moment, it felt like it was because I was struggling so bad. And there's other times I was just like, this was not worth it. So it was a difficult journey.
Yeah.
Very, very, very difficult. Because you feel like you're in it on your own as well. You don't know who else to speak to about it. You will get support from those who care about you. Like Cece supported me. Yes, she prayed for me, but I found it hard, and then I found it hard to go to her when I broke as well, because I always felt guilty. Because it is good to have an accountability partner, even if that person is on the journey or not. Just someone that can pray for you, because it's not easy. But then you feel guilty. You're like, oh, why did you? Why did you even do that to yourself? Like, why did you do that to yourself? And you feel guilty, and then you don't want to tell the person because you feel bad and that kind of stuff. So it is
I think
all
that's another important thing to mention is that like when you're on your journey, like Satan wants you to fail. Like that's one of his main things. And
Mhm.
like I was just about to ask you that question, but the Holy Spirit's leading, honey. The Holy Spirit's leading. And like when just with anything, like whenever you have an addiction to anything and you've got an accountability partner, Satan wants you to be like he don't want that person to pray for you to be like, I'm on this journey. He wants you to be like, no, 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 you're not gonna tell her because we're gonna stop this. But then you're gonna keep doing it and doing it, and the next thing you're so far in that you're so far from that person to reach out because you feel even more ashamed.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't look at it like that. You should look at it. Always try to look at it as like, you know what, the Bible says where two or three are gathered, He is there. So if you do have, and I think it's important to have an accountability person who you trust that can pray without judging. There's nothing wrong with correction, but without the full judgment. Because if you're going to have an accountability partner who just always points the finger at you and look down at you, like that's not growth, that's not love. You need to find somebody that genuinely loves you and wants to see you grow.
Right, right. That's what I'm saying. You're gonna feel this condemnation, like, oh, this person, you know, is always attacking me. And that was not the case with TC, but in my head, I just built up feeling that way. So this is gonna take me to the point of the end. I got to the point where I was really struggling for months. This was not 1 day, 2 day thing. Months I was struggling. I remember like I spent times crying to God saying, please, I am struggling. I am not trying to force you to send my husband, but I am struggling. Yeah, so it got to the point where I felt so emotional because I felt like I didn't know what else to do. I'm praying, I'm fasting, I'm praying, I'm fasting, and this is not working. And it got to the point where I started doing my I don't know if anyone remembers in a previous episode I spoke about walking and praying, and how more powerful it felt. It got to the point where like I was having those type of prayers, like pasting up and down in my room, like, God, seriously, this is getting ridiculous now. I've had enough. Like I can't. And then I started ending up in situations where I was now, I don't know, seeing people that I should not be seeing, creating these lies in my head that there's going to be any type of relationship. I was having conversations that I should not be having. And then I started seeing it as like, oh, okay, yeah, he's just a friend, but he was an ex. Oh, it's all right if he comes over, we're just talking, whatever, whatever. And I was doing that for a few months where we didn't do anything. And then it led to like one thing that may be like sexual, but it wasn't sex. And then I'd stop there. And then I thought, okay, I can resist. It's fine. Then like that was going on for a while, a long time. And then I'd cut it off and then I'd end up in it again and I'd cut it off. Then I was like, oh, it's just a bit of company and like just getting myself in a spiral that I should not be in. And then eventually, this is where the enemy caught me. He sent someone into my life that I should be able to resist because it'd been so many years. But I think, as usual, the enemy knows your weak spot. And he knew who to send. And so with that individual, that's where I broke because they just gave me that feeling. But it was because of the connection we had. We had a centered connection. We had a thing that connected us together. And that's where the enemy caught me. And I should have I should have been the one to be strong, but I was weakening. Me thinking I was still strong, but I was weakening because I thought that I'm setting the boundaries, I'm setting the rules, so it's okay, that it's fine. Like they're not doing anything. They're following what I've told them that I want. So I'm not gonna break. But then I started to question a lot of things that not question, sorry, that's not the word I'm saying, that I needed to say. I started to like there's something that we do, oh my gosh, I can't find the word, but it's like when I'm making excuses, that's it. I started making excuses like for certain things, like all my morals and stuff, or like kind of like diminishing it, or like, oh, well, it's just this, or what, like, do you know what I mean? I started just doing all these things in my head. And before I knew it, 2 months later, after that whole situation started, I broke. And at first, the first time I felt very, very guilty. I was close to tears because I was just like, I can't believe after nearly 6 years that I had given up. And that's what it felt like I gave up. But because I'd already done it and I couldn't undo it, I had to in my head, I was like, okay, well, we've got a plan. So it's okay. We've got a plan. Like, we're going to have a future. So it's fine. Do you know what I mean? So it's because it's like between that individual and the previous one, the other one, there was definitely not going to be any future. So that's where I didn't go for any further. Whereas with this person, I thought, yeah, there's going to be a future. So it's okay. And the wickedest thing, I literally felt the strongest battle spiritually before it even happened, because I was like,
Wow.
because I was struggling I knew that I can't even describe it to you. Like, it was like every emotion you can think of was running through me: fear, anger, frustration, temptation, happiness, laughter. Like, I felt everything all in one. And it was like, I knew one side of me was saying, you cannot undo this. When you do this, you cannot undo all the hard work that you and God have put into for over 5.5 years. You cannot undo that, right? Like, do you know what I'm saying? But because of all these other little elements, because you're aware of who the person is, you can understand where I'm coming from with this. Because the enemy knew like how to bring somebody that had so much history and meaning to you, that's where he caught me. And I feel so emotional as I'm talking about it right now. Like, that's where I feel like maybe I needed to talk about this, because it is deep. And we have to be really, really careful. We have to be so careful. The spiritual battle out there is not easy, people. And this is me coming raw and open with you. Like, literally, I've got tears in my eyes as I'm saying this, because I didn't want to give in a part of me, but the other part of me was struggling so bad. I actually didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't know what else to do. And I don't blame God. I'm not saying he wasn't helping, but it's that point where I needed him to physically snatch me up and remove me from this situation, because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So when I broke, it was it was like, it was nice in one way, but it was heart-wrenching in another way. Because I was like, you broke and you can't undo it. There's nothing you can do. And because at that point in my life, I'd already had so many fantasies of it being my husband. Like, I fantasized my wedding night so many times. I removed myself from just being a girlfriend, and I envisioned being a wife. And I'd fantasized so many times about being a wife and having that wedding night. Couldn't see my husband's face, but do you know what I mean? The excitement, like, what would I do? And oh my gosh, am I going to have candles? And, all these things. Like, I had so much excitement for that moment. And that moment was not that at all. And in my head, I tried to recreate that wedding night moment. Guys, that's how deep I went, thinking that I can get the same feeling that I had in my head in this moment, even though this person is not in my head, quote unquote, officially my husband, because they're going to be my husband.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. It didn't do nothing. As much as I tried to do everything that I wanted to do and everything I had planned, the moment was not that.
Was your
And
relationship with Yar still strong?
I would say yes, because I was praying about it. And I was praying about the relationship element of it. I wasn't praying about the sexual element of it.
Now, I mean, between like you and Yar, like, was you still like doing your Like everything that
Yeah. I
you
was still
used
doing
to do.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was still doing my devotional. I was still reading my Bible. I was still whatever, but just that my prayer ended up being more like stuck in this situation. I felt like I was a broken record. I was praying about this a lot. I was praying about whether I should allow myself to get into a relationship with this person. I didn't hear God say no. I think I even fasted about it at some point. Yeah, it was. I was still praying. I was like that part. Let me tell you something. Out of everything that was happening, I knew if I stopped that, I felt like I would have been losing my soul to the devil.
Wow.
I knew that if I stopped any of that, I could get lost really easily because I am treading on dangerous grounds. So I have to hold on to God. I did
Oh,
not go
this is
through,
unfiltered.
yeah. I couldn't let go. I couldn't. That was the one decision I made. I was like, no matter what I do, I cannot let go of my relationship with God. I've been working too hard all these years, like me being dyslexic, me struggling to read. I did not go through all of this to lose it for one human being. As much as I felt like I loved the person, I ain't doing it. No matter how much I have to go through punishment of God or whatever, I ain't doing it. That's all I knew. That's not happening. Stopping to read my Bible ain't happening. Prayer ain't stopping. Even if I am struggling and I need God's help and I'm crying, it's not stopping.
Okay, I have a question for you. What would you tell a person who feels like because their relationship is still strong with Yah, like, because you know, like you got some people, as you say, like once the moment they start having sex, they let go. And then
Yeah,
what about those people that they're still having sex? They felt bad, but now it feels like a norm. But because their relationship is strong with Yah, because they're not getting that conviction
yeah.
anymore that it's wrong, what would you tell those people?
I would tell you, please be careful. You don't know what you're playing with. You think that everything is okay. Because it started to get to that point for me. Like, oh, well, I'm guilty. It's happening. Can't undo it. Keep going. Right? But do not ignore the signs because you start to see stuff like maybe the person is doing things or you start doing. Listen, listen. I can't get any more unfiltered. But there's situations that I was ending up in where it was like from my past. Like you're now having to. For example, I'm just gonna say one thing out of all of the things I ended up in. But you're there now having to now go and start doing STI tests again, for example, because
And for those that don't know, because different countries call it different things.
oh yeah, so it's sexual transmitted infection tests. You're going to the clinic, you're getting tested because now you're sexually active with somebody and you in your brain you might think you don't know if that person's being sexual with somebody else. They've told you they're not. They've told you in a relationship with you. But for me, because I'm not married to that person, like it's all open game, innit? Like I don't know. And then on top of that, I don't know who that person was with before me. So now I also question them about that, but I don't know whether it's true. Like all your brain starts to spiral. Like I don't know if they're telling the truth. Are they telling the truth? Are they not telling the truth? I haven't seen the test. Is it really negative? Do you know what I mean? Like all these things. So then now I had to start protecting myself to start like getting myself tested and you got to make sure you're protected. Then I'm like, I didn't want to be using contraception as well. As in like the pill and all those things. I was like, I don't want to now ruin my body. I've been offered these things for years. Like all these things, it's like you're ruining yourself. Like
Mm.
I would say to you that you think you're okay. But let me tell you something. The devil's arranging a lovely plan. And you don't know what that could be. And you think you're strong. And it only takes one moment for him to drag you down. I am
Mm.
telling you, the devil is not playing. He's not a joke. He will swoop in. You think it's gonna be like a process. Like, oh yeah, the devil's gonna take you down bit by bit. Let me tell you something. In the time that you think everything's okay, man is arranging his plans. And it would just be one moment where he sends that war, that battle, and that is that. That's in that same moment you decide, I'm not praying anymore. I'm too guilty. Oh my gosh, what's God saying? Oh my gosh, whatever. And trust me, I had moments where I was tempted, like, you can't pray. Like, you are the worst. You made a promise to God. Like, I felt so guilty. I had promised, out of all the promises I had made, yeah, this was the one promise I thought I would never break. And I don't normally, like, I always say to God, I'm not making promises to you because I'm a human being and I don't know if I'm going to break. I'm going to try my best. Like, I never went to God with saying, I'm definitely going to do this. But that was the only thing I said I would not do because I knew it was wrong and I should not do it. But I
Yeah.
did it. So don't think that the enemy is not planning for you, my sister, my brother. I'm telling you, you are losing God in that moment as well. Even though, like, you might think your relationship is strong with Him, but bit by bit, because we are allowing our bodies to be given into this physical sin, spiritually, we're losing God because God already says He cannot dwell where sin is.
Yeah.
So bit by bit, you are losing Him spiritually because you're allowing this sin into you all the time. And it's going to get to the point where you're not hearing Him. And you're like, why can't I hear God? I thought I was close. I'm praying. I'm fasting. I'm reading. Well, that is just the act of doing something.
Yeah.
But are you really hearing Him? Are you really feeling Him? Are you seeing Him working? There could be stuff that's missing or going missing in your life. You know how, like, you lose a pen and you're like, wow, where's the pen? I've been looking for this pen for a minute or whatever. You just can't find the pen. Like, that could be like your normal. When I say normal, like the things that happens in your day, like the way God will like guard you and move you away from things because of the relationship you have with Him. You can't, the things that you cannot see. Do you get what I'm saying? And then suddenly, like, you see those
Yeah.
little things are disappearing. That's
Your
because you,
spiritual eyes are beginning to get blind. Yeah.
right. That's what I'm saying. That starts to happen. And you're
Mm.
like, wait, hang on one second. Do you know what I mean? Those
I want
things
to
like that.
backtrack a bit. I want to backtrack because with what you're saying here, and you touched on it for yourself. So this is why I love that this is so unfiltered. Back to the young men and women out there, the children of yours that are like, because as you said, you fasted, right? You prayed, and he, when you needed him the most, he didn't come through. Yeah, please, like, can you like, for those people who are out there that are struggling, that it's just like, I'm on my knees, I'm fasting, like, and he still didn't hear me. Like, I was crying out to him. I was saying, like, where is he? What would you say? Because with me, like, I didn't even know you was fasting. I was thinking like, rah, like, I wonder how I would feel like if you're fasting, like you're saying, Lord, I'm coming to you. You know, I'm on my knees. I'm fasting. Like, I need help. SOS. Like, the white flag is here. I don't want no more red
Literally.
flag.
Yeah. Literally, I was waving flags and things. Like, I'm telling you, it was deep. It was deep. I'm like bawling, like, I'm struggling. You know what I mean? Like, I remember that prayer in my room, like, God, I'm breaking. I'm very, like, I'm being so candid and telling Him everything. And still, you're not moving. Oh my gosh,
You
what was
actually made
this?
me think of the story of the guy who fled from the queen, who was trying to entice him sexually.
Yeah, that was that not John? No, it wasn't John. Was it? It was one of those. No, it wasn't, not John. Sorry.
It was Joseph.
Yes, that's who it was. Because I was thinking he worked in the temple.
And for those
Word.
that don't know, like, and I'm terrible with storytelling, as you could tell throughout the whole of this thing.
Yeah.
But the queen wanted him sexually, and he didn't want. He was saved. He didn't want her, and
Yeah.
he fled, and it cost him because I think, did she say that he raped her, or I can't
Yeah,
remember the
she
story.
did.
It just came to my head.
She told a lie. I don't know what's the exact lie. She told something because she even lured him into her bedroom and he
Mm,
had to flee from her bedroom. But yeah, she did lie on him. She did lie on him. I can't remember what happened to him, but she did lie on him. Someone else is shouting on the other side of the podcast going, yeah, this what happened. Yeah. But
yeah.
send us an email if you can drop the rest of the story if
I'm
you want.
gonna research it right now just so I could
Yeah. What would I say? Oh man, that's a tough question, man. Because I know what it's like to be there. And sometimes oh jeez, you got to flee, boy. The way Joseph fled, you got to run. Um,
Okay, so you can find it in Genesis 39, chapter 39, verses 7 to 12.
right.
So Joseph was working in Potiphar's house, and Joseph was he's saying that he was young, he was attractive, and he was alone. And Potiphar's wife pursued him repeatedly. So it wasn't just once, as what Shay's saying, yeah. Satan knows what he's doing.
Right.
So it was daily that she was trying to pursue him. And in verse 10 it says, and it came to pass as she spoke to Joseph day by day. So she was tempting him day by day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then she caught him by his garment, and he left his garment in her hand and fled and got out. But it doesn't go into much. So he left evidence, and hold on, what happened to the rest? I think she used the evidence that he left, like to say,
Yeah.
like he
Yeah,
tried
she
to
did.
lay
Yeah.
with her,
Yeah. She did. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Because
but he ran.
you see, man tried to run, like, clothes got ripped and everything. Like, that's how much he had to flee.
So it just shows
Um,
you how much Satan wants us, because even in Joseph's case, it's like he fled. He was still doing Yah's work, but still, like, she lied on him.
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, going back to the people who are crying out to Yah and Yah ain't hearing them. You're doing your SOS, you're fasting, you've been through it. How did you surpass it? How did you get through that?
Um, you have to trust that he is listening, even though he seems silent. You have to trust that he is preparing something out there for you. Something just popped into my head because I was struggling to think, how do I answer this question? But it was a podcast not a podcast. It was a YouTube video I saw of this girl. And it was hard because I was crying when I saw this YouTube video because she was on her celibacy journey and she was 3 years in at the time. And she had this guy that she interviewed about his book, and he was talking about the characteristics of men. He's talking about like there's three main characteristics we know about men, and he was talking about the other ones that men did not learn. So he was like, men are taught to be providers, protectors, and one other one. And then he said that the rest, there's others. They don't get taught to be husbands. They don't get taught to be brothers. They don't get taught, like all that kind of stuff. So anyways, he was saying that it was such a spiritually connected video because he said that he didn't come there to talk about his book. He came there for her. And then he was like, God told him that to tell her that he is protecting her from what's not right for her. So when she feels like he is not listening and like she's struggling, because she said 2 days before that she was crying out to God. The same way that I'm talking about I was crying out to God. The same way that you may be talking about you're crying out to God. And he said that God is protecting you from what's not for you. So when you're not seeing movement, when you're not seeing like maybe you haven't been on a date or you're not getting to know people or whatever, and it seems dead and it seems silent, God is protecting us from what's not for us. And I kind of forget that I prayed that prayer where I was just like, Lord, I'm not on the foolery of dating Tom, Dick and Harry and, Billy and whoever. That's just not me. And so I don't know how you're going to do this, but I'm not feeling to do that. And being a single parent, I don't have energy to be getting ready to go on a date that's going to waste my time. I'm just not. So I'd rather stay in my house. So I just feel like you have to think about the fact that maybe the reason why God isn't sending that person or sending anybody around you is because not trying to, he is protecting you. And secondly, he's preparing your spouse for you. And he's also preparing you for your spouse. Those are the three things you need to remember. You might think you are ready, and I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, but it might be something he is tweaking or molding in you that you don't know what it is. There's a characteristic or characteristics that he's molding in you. But also he's preparing your husband or your wife for you. You don't want, if you go to a job and you go and meet a manager or whoever, you don't want, the same way that they don't want you to be unprepared, you don't want them to be unprepared because you're going to be like, this job ain't serious. What kind of manager is this that they don't have their questions together or whatever it is? Do you know what I mean? There's the same way that you want the spouse that Elohim sends to you, you want them to be somewhat prepared, especially if you know you've been working on yourself. Like I know there's stuff that I've been working on and God has been working on in me, should I say, right? And then you're going to meet someone that's like all over the place. You're going to be like, really? Is this really my husband? And then imagine God says, yeah, here's your husband. And man's all over the place. And, he's not steady in his life. And you're going to be like, wow, I expected more of you, Lord. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's not, and our God is not a God of like confusion. So he's not going to send you someone that's like mediocre and not together, for you, who is made for you. So you have to trust that he's preparing that person for you. And I think that's where I started to build that excitement. Like, you know what? Maybe he hasn't sent that person. Yeah, but I'm excited. Like, what's my husband doing now? Like, is he at work? Like, what's, you know? Your wife can say, are you, the man, my brother out there that's preparing for your wife, what's your wife doing? Is she at work? Is she learning a new dish so she can cook for me when we're married? Like, these are the little things I started saying to myself, and it's the stuff that keeps me going. I might sound like a mad person, but it's true. You know, all these little, because these are moments you're gonna build in your marriage together. And, you know, start thinking about stuff like that, like, oh my gosh, is he gonna make me laugh? And like, what's going to be our thing, you know, like those type of things. Trust that God is doing that in that person, because he's sending who's right for you. Do you get that? For you, you know, not that's right, not someone that's right for you and Sally and Betty, for you as an individual. He is not preparing that person for somebody else. He's preparing that person for you to walk in that path together, for you to build his kingdom together. Kingdom builders. The two of you are building his kingdom. And so he has to make sure that you two are that power couple, not the worldly power couple. Don't worry about that. The power couple for the kingdom that is out here building the church, building the youth, building the children that you've created, because that is not going to be easy. And you need someone that's going to be, let me tell you something. I started like resisting, like the more I started thinking about it, I was thinking, wait, I need someone that's going to intercede for me. And I wasn't even thinking about that at the beginning of my journey. I started thinking about that more recently. Like, no, man, I can't be there praying over my husband and he ain't praying over me. Where is that? We're supposed to be a kingdom relationship. Oh, kingdom marriage, sorry. And I need someone that's praying over me. I
Yeah.
literally saw a video of a girl the other day talking about the fact that her husband went to the gym and came back home, and he knew that he went to the gym at 5 a.m., came back home knowing that she is going through her own battles, and knelt down next to her and was praying. And but she was sleeping and he was holding her hand, and she tried to pull her hand away and he was grabbing onto her hand. That is the type of marriage you want to be striving for. And so when you are praying and fasting and you're wondering why, let me tell you something. The words I'm saying right now, I needed to hear it. And it's not even me speaking. It's the Spirit speaking, because I haven't even thought about this or put this together for a long time. And I have moments where I'm like, oh, the struggle is here again, you know? But this is the type of things I need to be thinking about and focusing on. The words I'm saying right now, it's like I'm not even hearing myself. It's the Spirit speaking, because this is what you need to be doing. This is what you need to be thinking about. And also just be feeding yourself with the right things. Feeding yourself with, like, you know, when I'm in the mood, I'm not always in the mood, but sometimes I'll be listening to, you know, marriage podcasts, you know, about different challenges in marriage, and, you know, just building yourself up for that path, you know. It's like the same way you go for a job, you be doing research on this and that. Are you doing that? Are you putting time into like, I'd be asking, you know, Cece's one of my best friends and my other best friend. I'd be asking like marriage questions. What's this like? What, you know, it inquire, ask people who are married. All this, like, the type of like things I have in my head. Because sometimes I feel like, even now I'm at a point where I sometimes feel like I'm not going to get married, because I just feel like, oh, it just feels like such a battle. Like, you know, I'm at a point where like, oh, this marriage thing seems so hard. And I'm not saying it's not hard, but, you know, talking to other people who are married, they're like, actually, yeah, it has its challenges, but, you know, so and so. And they give you a different angle and a different, you know, I even spoke to my pastor's wife about it. And it's like, you know, having all these, it's nice to have people's different opinions and inputs. And, you know, it's nice to do research where you're just asking day-to-day people questions about marriage, people who are living it every day, so that you're feeding yourself. Are you doing that? What are you doing to prepare for your spouse?
I have a question that you didn't answer though. How did you get
Oh,
away?
how did I get away from the whole, like, just not doing any of this anymore?
Yeah, like,
Um,
because you talked about like you fell back into it. It was somebody that you saw as a lifetime partner, but then how did the Holy Spirit and Yah connect back? Even though he wasn't gone, but you,
yeah.
like as you said, you felt like when you were praying, he didn't answer. Then you fell back, but
Mm.
then you saw the red flags as you were saying. But how did you walk away from that?
He simply started showing me everything that I didn't want in a spouse in that person. It's just like revealing it. Boom, 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 one after the other. um Things that I would have ignored back in the day, and now it's just like, nah, I am not going into a lifetime commitment with somebody that is like this. This is not what me and God discussed Like it just started breaking it down. What are the things that I said to Elohim that I would have liked in a spouse? Not.
Before you answer that question, like the spouse bit, what about somebody who's not that strong in their faith yet? Who's they've fallen back. Like they might not see those signs because of everything that you've been through. So somebody that is new in their walk, who's everything was going well, they've fallen back. They might not even see the signs that you've seen. Like, what would be your advice to them?
I think you need to, in the beginning journey, because you're at the beginning of the journey with God, right? That's where you start praying, asking Him to reveal things to you. Because sometimes at the beginning of your journey, you don't learn about these things. You don't learn about praying for things to be revealed, for your eyes to be open. Because I think that there's always signs. You're just not seeing the signs. There is always signs. And think about your standards and your morals for yourself. Have you actually, is that person displaying those things that you would like in somebody? Like, seriously,
Mm.
seriously. I feel like you are blinded by the sex side of things. That's what I meant about the soul tie. So you can be blinded by the sex side and you're not seeing the rest of it. But I'm going to go back again. I was one of those people before this whole celibacy situation where, because I was like, I had a high sex drive and I enjoyed sex with that person, they were doing so many things that was red flags, but I was ignoring them just because of that part of the relationship, thinking that, oh, they still love me or whatever. We have good sex, we connect really well, whatever. Just, there's always stuff that's there. We just choose to ignore them. You are making a choice to ignore the signs that are there. I do not
Mm.
believe that people do not see stuff. That's a lie. Oh, I didn't see it. Yeah, you did. You're lying to yourself. I don't believe that. And I'm saying that as someone that denied it. And I saw it. But because I was just so caught up in like this great, what I was trying to create as being a great relationship, I felt like I couldn't see those things or whatever. But I could. Because, for example, you might have had a great night together. And in the morning, like, you're having argument over something so silly, or they're disrespecting you in the way they talk to you or whatever, but you're ignoring that because you had a great night last night.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're thinking, oh, but like you're still living off the adrenaline of that. But then they disrespected you the next day. Or they ignored your phone call when normally they answer your phone call. Or they dissed you in a text. Or they kind of like, do you know what I mean? They're doing all these things.
That is not obvious. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But like I said, even in the beginning of your relationship with Elohim and you're feeling like, okay, I'm not that strong with God. Well, you may think you're not that strong with God, but you're building. And you need to
Yeah.
start off with Him, praying for Him to open your spiritual eyes to what you cannot see. What is that person doing? Like, they would like, who's the type of spouse do you have for me? Is this the person? And then you start seeing all these things and you're like, my gosh, you see stuff that you didn't even know they were like that. You knew they were like that, but it didn't bother you until your spiritual
Yeah.
eye was open. Then you're like, whoa, this is serious. And I'm flashing back to that point, like I said, when I wasn't celibate and I was so caught up in the sexual side of the relationship with that person. But they were doing things. They were doing loads of stuff. The amount of stuff I faced in that relationship. I'm like, rah, really? I would have never taken that if I was in this stage of my, life now. But I was
Yeah.
ignoring it because I just thought, we're in a relationship. They love me. Sex is good. It's not that bad. You kind of start, shutting it down, whatever. But then you're having like these stinking conversations where you're swearing at each other and, whatever, and you feel disrespected. You don't feel that loved. But because of the sex, you feel loved. No.
Yeah.
No. Open your eyes, my brother. Open your eyes, my sister. It is not what you think it is. It's not what you
Wow.
think it is. And you need to pray. You need to pray hard. You need to pray hard. You need to really pray. Like, is this the path you want to continue on? Is this what you want to continue doing? Is this how you want to live your life? Do you want to
Mm.
continue having sex with this person outside of marriage? If you're growing in your relationship with God, what benefit does this bring you? Is this pushing you forward in your relationship with God, or is it pulling you away? Or is it keeping you stunted? Are
Yeah.
you not moving? Do you see movement in your life? Start to
Yeah.
really take control of what's happening around you and just say, do you know what? I don't know if I want this for myself.
Yeah.
Pray, kneel down and speak to your Father in heaven, and the rest will follow. You don't have to do everything in a day. I'm not saying go today like, oh yeah, I'm dumping you. No, I'm not saying that. Just go to Him, give everything up to him. He'll work out the rest. You'll see bit by bit, he will start to reveal things to you. He'll start to work things out for you. And eventually, trust me, he'll even help you, because I feel like removing myself from that situation and that relationship, I didn't really have to do anything. God did it for me. I'm being serious, because the person's behavior just got so ridiculous and so disrespectful. I was like, there's no way you can stay in this. So it just became easy to remove myself, because there was so much. And bear in mind, at the beginning, I was not seeing this in this person. It was a complete 360. It was like, whoa, what happened here? And it just made it easier for God to remove that person. It just made it so much easier.
Yeah, and it made me think about going back to Joseph's story. My last point um, is for those people who are in a relationship and Yah has told you to leave them, and you get the strength to leave them, but then you feel like everything is just going downhill, and you just think that I should have just stayed with that person. Maybe that's why he brought me back to Joseph, because Joseph fled, right? He left his garment,
Yeah.
and she then said that she went to her husband, which was Potiphar, and said that he assaulted her, and her husband believed his wife, and
Mm.
Joseph was sent to prison. And within that, like, you could think to yourself, like, but why this person is like a man of Yah. But Yah had something so amazing for him, because Joseph was interpreting dreams in prison.
Right.
That Potiphar started to have dreams that nobody could interpret. Then he had to go back to Joseph, the man that he put in
In
prison.
prison.
Yeah, for
The
his wife
irony.
accusing him of, because she was saying like lay with me, and he didn't want to lay with her, and he, do you know what I mean? So like sometimes you might feel like you've lost your pot of gold for that moment, but he has something bigger for you. And he just told me to just say that, like, just like Joseph. And Joseph's story is deep, not say his brother sold him into slavery, then
Yeah.
tutus, do you know what I mean? There's so much things, but at the end of the day, if you obey and you follow him, even though it's not easy, even though you're going to have trials, he hears you. He hears you. And Cece, I'm calling myself Shay. I want to thank you so much for being vulnerable. And I think this is what we need to do as children of Yah, to be vulnerable, because there's so many of us that are going through things behind closed doors, and we just all want to look like the good saints, that we don't go through nothing. And that's what Satan wants. He wants us to be divided. But if we
Mm.
come together and we pray together and we say, like, you know what, I'm struggling with this and I'm struggling with that, again, somebody that is you, that you can unite with. I must stress that, somebody that will that will that will correct you in love, not
Yeah.
correct you to condemn you. Get that?
Mm.
I really need to stress that, because there's Satan's agents are out there to break you down even more. I'm telling you.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
make sure you find the correct person that you can connect with, and pray about that person. Yeah, can this sister or can this brother pray for me while I'm struggling with this? Like, even like sometimes, like with like me and Shay, with just different stuff, we could be like, "Do you know what, pray for me. I feel like I'm falling." And these times we don't even know what each other's talking about, but you will just pray because Yah knows. Do you know what I mean? You don't even have to
Mm-hmm.
go deep,
Into
deep down.
detail. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And because Yah knows. And as he says, where two or three are gathered, he is there. And I really love this podcast. Like, ooh, month of love, and so they say. And because I'm sure whenever this podcast come out, we're in February right now, but maybe this podcast might come out in
So in
April. So
March,
we
I'm saying March.
no, March is full. So
Oh,
probably April, April or May. And this is how much we love you guys, because we're recording, but you just don't know.
no, yeah. But you're welcome,
But
man. I feel
Shay, would
like,
you like to pray for us after you do your last penny drop?
yeah, Cece, you're welcome. Guys, you're welcome. I feel like this was therapy for me. It was therapy for me. I feel like I don't know if I haven't spoken about it since then, whenever. It's been about, I don't know now. I don't know how long it's been since I've even touched on it, to be honest. It's been over. I mean, it's been a year since I fell. But it's been like under a year since I've removed myself from the situation and I haven't done anything else. But it's a tough journey, and I try not to think about it because I think if I do, I will continue to like constantly condemn myself. So I've just seen it as a clean slate and just continue to just go forward, because we can't just keep attacking ourselves, and it's not what God wants us to do. And it took me a while because I kept saying, like, I've asked for forgiveness and God has forgiven me, but I still hadn't forgiven myself. And it was really hard, but I think God knew what he was doing. He sent me different forms of distraction in a good way, to remove me from being caught up in my head. And he really does love us, because I wouldn't think that I'd be okay at this point. I thought I would be condemning myself for a really, really long time. And it's been great to be candid and open with you guys, because I don't think I know anyone that's really been on this journey the way I have. And I've been attacked through the years, like, oh yeah, no husband, no man is gonna wait for you. And I've heard so many things from different men. And I'm like, yeah, it was hurtful, but then it was just to the point where it's like, you don't determine my salvation. Like, yeah, what you're saying might be hurtful, but I don't want to be at heaven's door and hear the words,
Move from me, I do not know you.
yeah, that's it, thank you. I don't want to hear that. I want to see my mansion in heaven, and I want all my loved ones to be there with me. I have to push and can continue to intercede. I'm a vessel for my family. I'm a vessel for my immediate family that I have now with my child. And like, I have to keep pushing. And so, yeah, we have to keep going, because Yah has kept us alive for a reason. We're still going for a reason. He still sees purpose in us. And that's just what I have to hold on to. So I'm just going to pray now and give this all up to him. Elohim, Yahuwah, Alpha and Omega, our beginning and the end. I really want to give you just praises and thanksgiving for this subject that you've laid upon Cece. I didn't really think or realize how much I needed to just, I guess, let go, and just let go of this burden that I didn't know I was carrying, to be honest. Even though I'd prayed about it and I feel like I've moved forward, but it's been a hard journey, but you've been there with me every step of the way. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to now share this with others. I want to lift up my brothers and sisters to you, Lord in heaven, who may be on this journey and struggling. Lord, our body is the temple that you've created and given us. Help us, Lord in heaven, with the way we can take care of our health, the way that we can abstain from drinking and smoking and eating healthy. Help us to remember also that abstaining from sex is also another healthy way to take care of our bodies. Help us, Heavenly Father, Lord, in the midst of the struggle, as we are in waiting for the spouse that you have in store for us, that you're preparing for us. Help us, Lord, in the midst of abstinence, in the midst of celibacy. Lord, our journeys are different, and guide us, Lord, in heaven, in how you would like us to go. What do you want us to do in our single time without a husband or a wife? What do you want to use us for? There's so much we can do as people who are abstaining from this life, whether we are single, whether we're doing it within a relationship leading up to marriage. There's still so much that we can do in this time for your kingdom. And so clear our minds, help our minds to be clear. Draw the Holy Spirit to us and guide us on the path that you have in store for us. Help us to not resist and reject what you have in store for us, the characteristics you are building, the characteristics that you are removing. Help us, Lord in heaven, to not reject that, to be cooperative with you on this journey, Lord. Thank you so much, Lord in heaven, for what you're about to do through this episode. I pray that it touches and reaches the individual or individuals that you'd like it to touch, Lord. I pray that we can share it and spread it to anybody that we know that's struggling or may not even have knowledge of the fact that our temple, you've created it for us to be intimate within our marital bed with our spouses, Lord. with the person that you've created for us to be binded in a covenant of marriage. Some people are not aware of that, and so I pray that you will let this episode reach far and wide to that individual who needs to hear this, Lord. Thank you so much, Lord, for your time and for listening. In your blessed Son's name, Yahweh, as we pray. Amen.
Amen. See you guys soon.
See you guys.
If you've got a question, you can now email us at unfilteredchristian1@gmail.com.
Feel free to send us a fan mail via text or voicemail within the description.
And if you enjoy the show and you would like to support us, you can now send a monthly donation starting from $3. Just check out the description.
Thank you for listening and for all your support. We really appreciate it and see you soon.